This is the story of an African visionary leader who led his people in a fierce resistance against the British invaders. The Nandi people of Kenya bravely fought against colonizers who wanted to steal their land to build the Uganda Railway on their sacred territories. This African man's story is one of courage, dignity, and pride, and his name was Koitalel Arap Samoei, the Nandi leader. After his father's death, Koitalel inherited his position to become the sacred leader who could communicate with the ancestors and interpret prophetic signs. Koitalel was an Orkoyot. An Orkoyot is a title given to a sacred and a special role within the Nandi people and other communities of Kenya. And an Orkoyot is both a spiritual and military leader who has the authority to make decisions regarding security matters, especially the waging of war and negotiating for peace. An Orkoyot is also a prophet who can foresee the future and guide his people accordingly. Now, what did Koitalel foresaw and what do they mean? Let's take a look at some of his prophecies and how people have interpreted them. Koitalel predicted that a black snake would cross their land, the Nandi territories, spitting fire. This was interpreted as the railway that was constructed by the British colonizers. The railway was seen as a threat and an invasion by the Nandi people who resisted, attacked, and fought against its construction. The railway also brought diseases, famine, and environmental degradation to the Nandi land. Koitalel prophesied that the Nandi land would experience a light, that the Kalenjin community would prosper in the future. Some people believe that this prophecy has been fulfilled by William Ruto, who is the current president of Kenya. They claim that he is the light that Koitalel Arap Samoei foresaw and that he will bring development and prosperity to the Nandi people and other communities. Last but not least, Koitalel promised that his spirit would return after 100 years to lead his people to freedom and glory. Some people believe that this prophecy has been fulfilled by President William Ruto, who is seen as the reincarnation or the successor of Koitalel Samoei. They believe that he will lead the people to freedom and glory. These are some of the prophecies of Koitalel Arap Samoei. However, considering the recent protest in Kenya due to the high cost of living and taxes, needless to say, not everyone agrees with these interpretations, and some people even question their authenticity and accuracy. What are your thoughts? Under his rule, he managed to unite the Nandi people against the British, whom he considered to be a threat to his people and culture. Therefore, he waged war against the colonizers. For 11 years, Koitalel's resistance movement gave the British hell. He used guerrilla tactics to attack, disrupt the supply lines for the construction of the railway. He ambushed and inflicted heavy casualty on British soldiers, including engineers working on site. Needless to say, he gave them problems and they had no solutions. However, one day he was tricked by a British officer, Richard, with a complicated last name. Koitalel was invited to attend a truce negotiation, and the condition was both parties were only allowed to attend with 5 people. Koitalel, being an honest man, attended with 5 people, but the deceitful British officer also attended with 5 people without counting the many hiding in the bushes. Koitalel appeared, approached the colonizer, shook his hand, and then the colonizer shot him in the chest, and they shot the rest of his companion, but one was wounded and managed to escape. However, it didn't end there. The British officer decided to remove Koitalel's head from his body as a war trophy and shipped it back to Britain. Richard was a controversial British soldier, intelligence officer, and ornithologist. He was involved in many historical events in Africa and the Middle East, but he was also a prolific liar. He lied like there was no tomorrow. He lied about many of his feats and achievements. This man had to trick Koitalel, the Nandi leader, and lure him into a trap in order to be able to kill him, because on the battlefield, the Nandi leader was bad news. But then again, I'm not saying Richard was a coward, even though he can easily lead the march from the front with a baton. Anyway, Richard was also a thief. He stole bird specimens from museums and other collectors and falsified the labels and data of many of his ornithological records. He was accused of putting his wife and some of his rivals and enemies in the back pages of history. His countrymen say he was a complex and contradictory figure who was admired by some, meaning fellow colonizers, and despised by others. Well, to me as an African, nothing is surprising in his behavior because these are the characteristics of a respectable colonizers our ancestors had the misfortune of encountering. Now it's been more than a century and Koitalel's head has not yet been returned to Kenya despite the countless requests to the British government and by his family and ascendants. We don't descend, we ascend from our ancestors. In September 2022, they renewed their call for compensation and a public apology for the losses of lives and property during colonizations. Despite their call and historical cultural significance of the man, the British are still not interested. However, Koitalel Arap Samoi's legacy has been honored and celebrated by the people of Kenya and African people at large. His courage and wisdom inspired a generation of freedom fighters and leaders across the African continent. I hope you will make room for another great African hero and freedom fighter if this is the first time for you to hear the name Koitalel Arap Samoi, the Nandi King.
We, ni nini?